What's up guys, welcome to another video. In this video, I'm going to be talking about fight selection as a carry player, as well as going over some of the replays from students of mine that I've coached on Metafy, as well as one or two of my replays on carry. The goal for this video is for you to learn how to take your fights with intentionality, proactivity, and what you should be thinking about and what really dictates the terms and conditions for fighting. So what we're going to do now is we're going to enter a game where I play Phantom Assassin. I'm going to talk about dodging fights, as well as how to take fights in specific locations and how to think about fights from a carry standpoint. Okay, so in this video, there's three different things that I wanted to talk about, but the first one is going to be the initial fights in the game and where I take them and why I take them. So this is an example of a PA game where I'm farming really well, and I'm just chilling, farming the ancients, nothing really too crazy happening in the game. But my goal for this game, since I'm going to be threatened and I'm going to be pressured, is to defend my mid tower. Since I know that I'm playing with a Battle Fury and the enemy carries a Tiny that doesn't really have Battle Fury and has an earlier timing, the enemies are going to be in a position where they can just have a way more successful, way more aggressive early game. I have a Exort Invoker with a Midas as well. So the way I look at this game is I'm just going to hold my mid tower, and I'm going to build an approach for how to hold the mid tower. So as you can see, I really just AFK farm until the enemies start pressuring the mid tower, and it's really important that you enter team fights with a real thought process. So vast majority of circumstances, that's going to be who actually threatens to kill me, how am I going to approach the fight, who am I using my spells on, and typically it's going to be dictated on heroes like relative strengths, as well as who could threaten to kill you. So in the context of this game, I'm playing against, Wind Ranger, Puck, and Tiny. Those are the only heroes that really matter in terms of my matchups. So at the start of a game, you should already be eliminating a vast majority of heroes, like 2, 3, 4 heroes, and just isolating who matters in your matchups, whether it's the enemy carry, like a carry matchup, or who threatens to kill you, whether it's the enemy mid or the enemy off lane, so on and so forth, depending on the matchups. Those are really important. So for me, I'm entering the fight from the perspective and the thought process. As long as I don't get coiled and Tiny comboed, I literally cannot die. And then the reason I want to defend my mid tower, even though I have a Battle Fury and the enemies are much stronger right now, is because if I lose this mid tower, I'm going to lose map control and control my ancients. I've already lost the side lane towers, and it's extremely important to have this ancient area as a Battle Fury carry. So what you're going to see here is how I approach this fight middle. I don't actually commit, and it's really important to know the types of fights you can commit to and the types of fights you can't commit to. So the reason I don't commit is because I'm waiting for them to use all their stuff, and also because I'm not really like the control or on a timing. I don't really need to go in. I just want to make sure I don't lose this tower, and I'm here to make sure that they, if there's any extra kills I could potentially take. So if you watch, all I do is shoot daggers and get like supplementary kills. I think I get one extra kill, or I almost kill the Tiny here. But the key about this game that made this game really good is that I got a lot of time to farm, and lower mark players or people who just aren't paying attention never really notice these kinds of plays from carry players. And these kinds of fight choices are extremely important because it prolongs the game. So when the enemies actually commit to pushing middle, I'll go back middle here, and as you can see, I'll TP middle, and I don't commit to the fight. I just shoot daggers. I might get a random kill. I'll wait for Tiny to commit, use his full combo, and then I'll actually go in because I know that there's nothing left that can kill me. Puck's dead. Tiny's used all his combo, and I've basically eliminated everything that threatens to kill me, and I still showed up to throw several daggers and defend my mid tower. And I'm going to do it multiple times in this early game, 2-3 times. And that enables me to prolong the game, keep kind of an even goal lead, so on and so forth. And I thought that was a really important idea to demonstrate in this game. As you can see, we won that fight middle, and Tiny died. So paying attention to these opportunities, constructing advantageous fights, is extremely important. So here, for example, Tiny's respawning 5 seconds and I'm pushing lanes. It's really important you're always pushing lanes with a purpose. Don't just push lanes mindlessly. Whenever you get the opportunity, especially if you're split pushing or if you have a Battle Fury, so on and so forth, your goal should be to construct pressure on the map and look for, value out of that pressure. So here, for example, Tiny TP's top. As you can see, he TP top after dying. And I know this, so I'm communicating this to my team. So what I say is, hey, maybe we could kill the Tiny if he's farming the jungle since they're all bottom. But I realize after getting the DD rune that the bottom people are overextending and the Tiny's not. So I end up just TPing bottom after this smoke. and saying, hey, kill all of these heroes bottom. So this is essentially two things. One, constructing an advantageous fight. You need to be pushing lanes and be conscious about pushing lanes, because a lot of people just die clicking a tower. I always try and tell people it's not your job to mindlessly click towers as a carry. Your job is to push lanes, construct advantageous fights. It should be a 4-step process. Push lanes, construct advantageous fights, apply pressure on the map, and then when you break the pressure, when you get kills, then you should take objectives for free. Very, very rarely is a tower going to be free, and it's only going to be free on the basis of like everybody else has used TPs, everybody's dead, so on and so forth. Just take the free towers, and otherwise the map pressure is the objective, and then leveraging that is how you win games. So the next thing I wanted to show you is there's going to be one more interesting fight here. I've shown you one from this game, how to approach defending objectives, how to decide where you should take objectives and take those fights. 2, punishing map movements and constructing advantageous fights. Okay, here's the interesting fight. So there's a smoke on smoke action, and the nice thing about this matchup is I am way superior late game, so you need to be conscious about that and knowing when your timing is. I always try and tell carry players you should be thinking about how many items do you need to carry a game. Is it 3, is it 4, based on your matchup. That requires experience, but you have to be thinking about the matchup. So in this tiny matchup and you know, wisp, so on and so forth, I need like 4 or 5 items, and then the game's over. They can't really deal with me. It's way too hard. And he wants to try and end the game, and you know, they get 2 Aegises, end the game early, build a ton of pressure. And of course, it's a little bit more dynamic than that because there's lots of other heroes, but generalizations are still good because the goal is to be a conscious, intentional player. That's how you improve. And that's just a lost art in Dota nowadays. And I always try and tell people, and I know this is more of a philosophy lesson than a Dota lesson, I always try and tell people, if you take every fight just because your teammates and enemies are taking it, they're deciding you're a Mar. So you're gonna be stuck forever. The amount of people that I just coach and they take a fight and they're like, my teammates were yelling at me, or you know, they were just there, or my brain was turned off, then you're never going to gain MMR. You're never going to gain MMR like that. You have to be focused and come with a plan. For me, I know I need Scotty or BKB to play fights in this game, period. So in this case, we end up just winning the fight, and then yeah, basically GG from there. So 3 things that I wanted you guys to take away from this first replay on PA. 1, actually there's lots of things you need to take away from this. 1, sometimes it's your job to show up to fights just for the sake of prolonging it while not having any crazy contribution or committing. 2, categorize the heroes on your team, and if certain heroes are essential for the fight and they're not there, they're dead, just literally leave. It's okay to literally leave and wait for another fight as a carry. 3, I need you guys to understand that you need to have an approach for every single fight. Who's going to kill you, what you're waiting for, who you're going to go on, so on and so forth. And a lot of that is kill threat based, matchup based, relative strength based. And that means you have to pay attention to items, learn your matchups, and start thinking about who you actually want to kill first, or who you're waiting for them to use their spells. If, say, there's 3 spells in a game, like let's say, for example, as a metaphor, let's say there's Chronosphere, and let's say there's Chronosphere, there's Hex, and there's Axe Call. Okay, so let's say the Shaman has the Hex, right? I'm going to itemize for one. I'm going to let one be used on the enemies, and then I'm going to go on the other. So for this case, let's say I itemize for the Hex, so I get a BKB. And then the Chronosphere, I make sure it's used on somebody else. And then the Axe Call, I'm going to go on Axe and bash him or something. So basically, I'm constructing a plan for 3 things that threaten to kill me every single game, or 2 things, or so on and so forth, so that every fight has intentionality behind it. I'm isolating all the things that kill me and then all the people I want to kill and have a plan for all that. That's how you need to approach fights in your head. And I notice this coaching Legend, Ancient, Archon players all the time. People will just take fights in perpetuity all game long, 5v5, 5v5, 4v4, 3v3, and they never build any net worth advantage because it's random. It's completely random. The place is random. The heroes that are there are random because you're just walking around purposelessly, no sense of productivity, no sense of reason behind what you're doing, and then you just throw. And then they throw, and then it's just purposeless. Whereas if you take far fewer but more calculated fights, you will gain a lot of MMR, I promise. Okay, so in this section, I have a student of mine who's Luna in this game, and basically, one of the first things I taught him that's really, really important when you're playing carry and you're trying to understand how to team fight better and how to approach games better is, in this case, you have to understand when you need to be online and when you need to be able to fight. So a big problem that I see from carries at this bracket is they will just wait to get a BKB, or they'll just wait forever to get it, you know, whatever item actually enables them to fight. So I told him, like, look at all the different things that kill you: RP, tiny combo, Zeus, Phoenix, Nyx. It's all solved by BKB except RP. And so as a Luna, your goal is to be online when the enemies are online. You need to be not able to just melt instantly. You need to be able to farm the map or team fight. One of those two things: pressure the map or team fight. And it's really important you guys understand, you need to have a train of thought. This is how you get really smart as a player. Notice how I split the game into two different game plans right there. Either you're pressuring the map or you're able to fight. And so then you have to ask yourself, against these heroes and these matchups, do they have catch, which stops me from pressuring the map, or do they have very little catch, so I could just split push, pressure the map, and, you know, dodge? Like my last game on Phantom Assassin that I showed you, they had very little catch, just a puck. So I was able to just pressure the map and defend objectives. That's not going to happen for Luna in this game. He's going to have to be able to online and fight, because if he tries to just pressure the map, dodge them, so on and so forth, he's going to get RP, tiny combo by blinks, and Nyx is going to hunt him. They have catch, they have vision control. So you need to get a fast BKB. That's how you have to come to conclusions. First off, you have to set the premise, and ask yourself, how do I die? And then what are the enemies actually good based on these matchups? And then how do I get online before that's a huge problem? So in this case, I would probably go something like Dragonlance, Yasha, BKB. Get a really fast BKB, and then I could just farm a little bit more aggressive, and that's going to turn into a lot more gold than rushing Manta and trying to push the lanes with illusions or whatever, which is what he does this game, so he has no plan. And then I'm going to look at their heroes and ask myself, can I fight before BKB? And the answer is pretty much no. Unless it's super inherently advantageous, vision, positioning, and timings, like I've been stressing, unless it's super inherently advantageous, you're not going to be able to do that. So he shows up to this mid fight. It wasn't too terrible. He has his Manta. I definitely would get BKB here. I would not even get the Manta. I think it's trash against Zeus. I might even go SNY this game because it's really good against Magnus, but
this video is not super about itemization, but I'm just offering whatever carry advice I can give you.
Regardless, you need BKB. He's going to go Mask and Madness and then try and get BKB, and it's going to be like, he's going to be aiming for a 30, 25-minute BKB. It's way too late. Way too late. Even in a slower pace game, that's way too late against these types of heroes. But I want to show you this here. This is something that I wanted to show you. So he's farming the jungle. This I talked to him about, which is really important, and it's not the point of this video, like I said, but I'll impart this information as well. This bottom half of the map is free farm for him. And one thing that I try and teach my students as well about carry is you can start to correlate hero threats to parts of the map. So for example, if I know that this Magnus is about to TP top, and he's one of the 3 heroes that kills me, then I see Nyx and Tiny mid and top. I could just take all this farm bottom, all that farm bottom. But a lot of players at this skill level, they don't correlate the hero matchup to the place, to the threat. They just look at the place and then think that's threatening because they have an inherent bias to certain places on the map. It's a huge problem at this skill level, Archon, Legend, Ancient. And so I really stress you have to start correlating who threatens to kill you to a certain place on the map and paying attention to people's TPs. There's certain heroes in Dota, Alchemists, that can just take over the whole map just by virtue of being unkillable. And so you can take that logic and apply it to a hero like Luna. Even if you're always technically killable, even with a BKB, it's still really important that you take over huge parts of the map because everyone else has no TP. They're busy. Now he's just tunnel vision on creeps, and that's life. So we'll skip past that, but I want to show you what happens here. Magnus TP's top, and then Nyx is walking here. So anytime there's a combo, a pair of 2 heroes that threaten to kill you, it's a no-no. You literally leave. But when you're not focused on what threatens to kill you, which is like the #1 thing in Dota, honestly, for every single role, you don't correlate that to what you see on the map. Something else that happens is these players, the information on the map gets information overload. There ends up being way too much information on the map. So I often tell them, like, just eliminate all the extra variables and just focus on the heroes that can kill you. So here he ends up dying in the jungle. Basically, they end up just hunting him in the jungle because he's not on the right side of the map. He could have easily been farming bottom, and his Sven, who does have a BKB, could have been the one playing top, and the map would have made way more sense. But also, this is his timing to just be grouping up with the team and just be playing aggressive anyways. You should have a BKB. And the next part is, when you're not on your timing, just don't show up to the fights at all. So here's an example. They're pushing the tower, so on and so forth. He just died, like we talked about. He's going to respawn in 10 seconds. And he's going to show up to this fight again. This fight he should never ever show up for. The fight is literally over. Remember I told you correlate specific heroes to the fights. Army Knight, W, absolutely necessary. Pudge ulti use, Wind Ranger ulti use. Everything's used. The fight's over. No timing. And then the heroes that enable him are not there. Sven's not there. Sven uses BKB is not there. He's not correlating anything about the actual context of the game to his choices in the fights. He just shows up to every single fight, which is such a huge problem at this skill level. And that's one of the reasons I wanted to make this video, because you guys have to start choosing your fights extremely wisely or you're not going to be able to carry games. And then itemizing for those timings. For me, I would never take this fight with Sven not there, period. With Omni Knight W used, period. So this is another last example from this game of a terrible fight. This guy's 3 minutes on his Aegis and no BKB. And yet they choose to just dive the tower, complete insane, no spend mana, nothing, no reason to dive the tower. The fight's over. They have 3 minutes. When you have the Aegis for 3 more minutes like this, you could just farm the whole map. Wait for your BKB to come back up, your ulti to come back up, so on and so forth. You don't have to try and end the game like this. It's really foolish. Instead, they end up doing all this diving, and he ends up dying twice. As you can see, they end up having a really, really long fight, and his team sucks at long fights. That's something else that high skill players are good at, is understanding cooldowns and the nature of how heroes fight. So for me, I look at a hero like Sven that has God Strength, BKB, Luna, BKB. We can only really fight around our BKBs and Omni Knight spells. We don't have long fights. We don't have heroes that just spam spells, Void Spirit, Ember Spirit, that just like to take a super long fight and chip at you. Now we have BKB type heroes that want to take a short brief fight. So thinking about that also could be really useful, because then you could start to say, hey, if this fight doesn't look like it's going to end fast, I'm not going to take it. So in this last example from one of my coaching students, I just wanted to show you guys this Spectre game because it reiterates a lot of what I've been talking about. Basically, I stressed to this student that you have to start to categorize your heroes as to who is essential in a fight. And what is essential from those heroes. And so in this game, there's going to be a fight here top. What ends up happening is there's a Chrono and Wyvern, he's guaranteed dead, and Necrophos has no Reaper Scythe. So the fight is not a fight from the start. No Reaper Scythe and no Curse, essentially. And then his Invoker is literally not there. His Invoker's bottom with no TP farming. And so the way you need to look at a circumstance like this if you're a high MR player is, oh, Faceless Void used his Chrono, these heroes are dead, this fight is over, but now I have a 2.5 minute window with no Chrono to take a really, really good successful fight. The problem is, players at this skill level, you know, I'd say Divine, Immortal, and below, don't think about things in kind of a logical, they're reactive. Instead of proactive and looking for things to exploit and abuse to the enemies, they're reacting to what their allies are doing. And this puts you in a position where your allies are dictating your play. When your allies are dictating your play, you will not improve and you'll play to the level of your allies, which of course means you won't gain MMR. So what I stress here is this is a huge opportunity to turn this game actually. By letting them waste the Chrono and killing 2 heroes, he can actually construct a super advantageous follow-up fight with his Haunt and potentially kill them. So he ends up wasting Halt and trying to kill one random guy. I think it's Ogre or Sniper here. Yeah, he tries to just go for Sniper, but he's absolutely not able to kill the Sniper. Sniper has grenades, Sniper just gets away. So now he has no Haunt and 2 heroes die because he just comes in here. And even worse, I think he's going to die in this fight. Let me see. Necro can't help him because Necro had no Reaper Scythe. Everybody's dead. So I understand information overload happens to people who aren't extremely dedicated to Dota or experienced in Dota. So instead of trying to pay attention to everything, I tell people categorize heroes, narrow down what spells are most important in terms of the enemies, narrow it down to just who threatens to kill you. Basically take the most important information, start thinking about the most important information. And if you don't know what's important, that's why I'm making this course. And then focus on that. So for me, what ultis on my teammates are important? Necro ult, Curse, Wyvern's dead, Necro has no ulti, boom, I'm not showing up. Who do I need most in fights? Well, if I'm Spectre, I need control, so I need my Wyvern and my Invoker, okay. Those heroes can't be the fight. Wyvern dies Chrono, Invoker's no TP. I'm not going to show up to the fight, period. When you start to isolate information like this and use it to inform your decisions, you get way better, way faster, and you get to learn from your decisions way better, way faster. Because you could say, oh, I thought that guy was my control, but he wasn't enough control. Oh, I thought that guy was my damage, but he wasn't enough damage. Next time I need 2 heroes. You know, you get to actually evolve rapidly, even inside of the game. And so this is a huge opportunity to turn the entire game, and you don't get that many opportunities. So this guy made 2-3 plays like this, wasted Haunts in a game like this, and he's just over. This is a game where it was actually pretty winnable. His good matchups against, you know, Death Prophet, decent matchup against Death Prophet, good matchup against Sniper. But, you know, between bad play from his teammates and constantly wasting Spectre ult and trying to start bad fights with no intentionality or thought process behind him, the game just ends really fast. And I will say something really awesome is this student's been messaging me and saying, you know, these kind of concepts have really been helping him gain MMR. He's already ranked up. So I really stress you guys, if you want, you can come to me for coaching on Metafy, or you could just continue to watch these videos. But the only thing I want out of these videos is for you guys to just be more thoughtful and more proactive in your games. That's it. And you will improve and you will gain MMR. So let's just do a quick follow-up on, my closing thoughts on this video. Essentially, I want you guys to stop fighting every single fight and focus on constructing good fights and how they should take place and dodging the bad fights. 2, you should take fights around timings, item timings, matchup timings. If the enemies have a bunch of magic damage earlier, you'll be forced to fight, get BKB. If the enemies don't have their BKBs yet and you're online, take advantage of that, so on and so forth. Look for timings to exploit and take fights with vision and information advantage. You should always be understanding which teammates are most important. This is the third thing in your fights. So if you're the control, you need damage. If you're the damage, you need control. If you're in the middle, you might need both. Which heroes and which spells are most important. And that's a concept that is so beautiful because you can extrapolate on it. It can get more and more nuanced and tempo based and timing based as you get better at Dota. The fourth thing is you should always have a plan for how you'll take a bad fight. So I used my PA example. Are you going to just TP out? Are you going to just throw daggers but not commit? You could take fights where you don't commit, but you have to be there because you don't want to lose the objective, but you'll probably lose the fight. So on and so forth. And then you have to understand that some fights will be easy or necessary just based on their location. So like defending a mid tower or positioning for Roche, this really requires you to pay attention to lineups. Some lineups are amazing at defending Roche. Some lineups are amazing at fighting in the jungle. Some lineups are amazing at fighting with vision, so on and so forth. Pay attention to lineups and start to think about how does your team fight and how can you abuse that. So in my Luna example, I said that, with a BKB, you can just be really aggressive in this game and you only have to worry about RP, but you have Sven as well with BKB, so won't be so bad. But without BKB, that game was unplayable. So I would get BKB at like 16, 17 minutes. I'd leverage that BKB to get an Aegis, and all of a sudden at 20 minutes, we'd be trying to end the game. The antithesis of that is never get a BKB, die once or twice, the enemies get the Aegis, and then you have no win condition and no way to take an easy fight. And so it's really important to think these things out and think about the lineups and the matchups in advance and plan for the games. And that's a skill. And that's what I really want you guys to take away from this. So I hope you guys learned something, and thank you so much. Absolutely, please let me know if you guys enjoyed the course, and yeah, reach me at Metafy as well. Peace.